evening, everyone. This meeting of the Barnstable Infrastructure and Energy Committee is being recorded and will be posted for future viewing on the Town of Barnstable website. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, anyone else desiring to make such a recording or transmission must notify the chair. And with that, over to Barry.
Okay, I guess before we start, I see we have a guest, Mark Wortman. And Mark, if you want to say something, you don't have to, but if you'd like to, here's your chance.
Water Commissioner Bethany.
Thank you. Mark Wortman, West Barnstable. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm calling about Commerce Road and Barnstable Village. You may know that the town is raising the level of the road near Route 6A because the access point is a little bit low and it has flooded in the past. Now, while they're raising the height of the road, they've also decided to make a much larger culvert under the road. And at the same time, they've decided to put in a sidewalk to extend from where it ends on Commerce Field all the way to 6A. So my request and suggestion is that while they're at doing all of those things, they bury the power lines. Eversource needs to do their job and actually help improve safety by getting rid of the poles, improve reliability by getting those power lines underground where they belong, and improve quality of life because they really look terrible and they destroy the trees because Eversource comes in and prunes the trees. So I figure your committee with infrastructure and Eversource and energy would be the exact committee that would hopefully be able to pass on a recommendation to the DPW, which has just had their first meeting in Barnstable Village about the project. So I know Eversource is always resistant to doing things like this. They'll have a litany of reasons, and it's expensive and it's difficult, and you get the violin out and they play that for you because it's just so difficult to do the job that they should be doing. So I'm just here to say, I hope you guys will think about getting the power line, the request in to get the power lines buried from where they're going to start the project and where the sidewalk ends and out to 6A. They could at least bury the power lines for that half a mile or whatever it happens to be. So that's why I'm attending the meeting and having.
Okay, just ask you, are these distribution lines or the transmission line?
These are distribution lines.
Okay.
This power line just goes out from 6A to the homes on Commerce Road.
Okay.
So it's as simple as that. They're adding 7 feet. So I figure while they're putting 7 feet of fill in, they can put in some power cables, and it's not that hard of a job. They're going to have to dig some trenches, but it's nice sandy soil out there, and they got the road opened up, and they're putting in a sidewalk, so they might as well bury the power lines.
Okay. All right. Well, let's maybe we can hold that, and if you're interested in attending more, we can come back to it a little bit. We have some other business to do. Is that okay? I don't want to keep you. Sometimes our meetings go for an hour and a half, but I'll maybe we can come back to it once we get through some other stuff.
Well, I don't know that I can stay that long, but you know why I came, and I just had thank you for the opportunity to give my reason for being here.
So I'll tell you what, why don't
Barry, I just have one question.
Sure, go ahead.
Mark, did you bring this up when you said you've already had one discussion with DPW in your neighborhood out there, or not? I just wondered if this was brought up. Oh, okay.
I did not have a chance to speak at that meeting. It was held at the county complex off Route 6A.
Okay.
By the town engineers, and I did not have a chance to speak at that meeting.
Okay.
So is this a meeting that was held by Eversource or by the town?
No, Eversource was nowhere to be seen. They, it was held by the town. It's a town project completely.
Okay.
It's a town road. Commerce Road is a town road, and they're gonna be
You
adding
know,
a sidewalk.
maybe the thing to do, I'd be happy, Mark, to have a conversation with you offline to learn a little bit more about this, and then, you know, could see what happens from there. Is that fair?
That's great. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I'll give you my phone number. It's although now that the entire world will know it because it's a public meeting, but it's 978-852-7130.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Mark. Yeah. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Take care. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. We can go on to review of the minutes from the last two meetings.
Yeah. I did get around to reading the ones when Lisa Sullivan gave the presentation. They're excellent, Chris, by the way. You do a good job with these minutes. I didn't
Thank
see
you.
anything
They were
on that
very
one.
long to write.
Yes, it was a long one.
But
I
no,
didn't see anything to change on that, but the last meeting, there's just one small point that the slides that I donated for general consumption, particularly for Rob, because he was interested in EVs. I didn't go to that meeting. That was second set of minutes, but
Okay. Do we want to do the October 7th one first, just
Yeah,
to,
let's do that. Does anyone have any suggested correction or change to the minutes?
Looks good to me.
Do we have a motion to approve it?
so moved.
Okay, Chris,
Second.
second, all in favor?
I-
We're all in favor, so that the minutes are adopted. So let's go to the October 21st minutes.
Yeah, and my only comment was I suggested that particularly Rob might be interested in that EV Recharge Massachusetts meeting they'd had, and I didn't go to the meeting. I've been in touch with that organization, so I just shared the slides because I had access to the slides. But I don't know if that's even important enough to make a change.
Okay.
and I think I did send those slides around to the
Yeah,
committee,
I
did
don't
I
know.
not?
Did
No, you
people get
did,
them? I don't
but in the
remember
meeting,
them.
in the minutes, it said I had recently attended a meeting, and I'm just in touch with that organization. So I had the slides from the meeting, but
Okay, let me,
that's a minor.
where are
Yeah,
they?
I don't know whether the slides, I don't recall getting them, but if someone has them, they want to.
He did send them. I
He
think.
did send them. Okay, that's on me then. All right. Yeah, I just have this is kind of just a small thing, but in new business under A, the fifth line for the bottom, Barry concludes that there are questions regarding, I guess it should be the sizing rather than the oversizing. You
Let
see
me
that word?
this. Give me a second. All the way. Not too far on that.
Rob has just attended.
Oh, hi, Rob.
Hi, Rob. Let me, yeah, welcome. I give you a short summary. We just approved the minutes of October 7th, and we're going over the minutes of October 21st. And I have a rather minute.
Yeah, which paragraph was that in under new business A?
Under new business A, and it's the fifth line from the bottom, the first paragraph.
Okay, I found it.
I think that should be sizing rather than oversizing, but anyway.
Okay, yeah, nope, that's an easy enough
Does
change.
anyone else have anything? No, the minutes did a good job with the minutes. And I'll move that with that small change, we approve it.
I second.
Second, all in favor? Okay. That's unanimous, it's approved. Okay, we've done that. And Rob, just to let you know, while very early, but before we got to the minutes, we had a guest attend, and he had some specific issue with a town project in West Barnstable, and his request to put an overhead distribution line in that area underground. So I said he could follow up with me and I'll talk to him. So that's basically the other thing that's happened in this meeting, and now you're up to date. All right, so okay, next on the agenda, old business. And the first thing we have is green communities relevant updates. I really don't have any update. I checked the DOER website in terms of whether they're going, whether they've acted to adopt their proposed regulations with or without any modifications. And I have not seen anything. And we had some outstanding requests today. I haven't heard from Lisa Sullivan, so I guess there is no update at this time. But that's not a surprise. We weren't expecting anything until the end of the year, or maybe the beginning of next year. So anyways, that's where that is.
Barry, I just have a concern that with our recent election outcome, I wonder if we're going to want to do green communities sooner than later. I don't know if this is federal money that works its way down through the states, or if this is Massachusetts money.
Yeah, this is state money.
Okay.
I don't really see that the presidential election should have any impact on this. There may be other things, but I don't see there being
Like
impact.
denying climate change.
Yeah, well, that's troubling, but yeah, but I don't think it would affect the green communities. All right,
Okay.
let's
Sorry
move
to
on.
interrupt. I just realized I'm about to run out of my computer battery, and I don't have my charging cord with me. So I think I'm going to try to go in from my phone. So I may be gone for a minute.
Okay, so I'll tell you what we'll do while you're doing that. We'll move on
Yeah.
to the next agenda item and then come back to you. Is that okay?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
All right. So next we have climate change and climate science, and Chris Cloninger.
Yeah, let's Chris, you think you could give me sharing capabilities? I wanted to show you some stuff with the drought, because this is pretty atypical, and I think it's something that we could spend a minute on just because of water resources and kind of our new norm.
Yep, you should be able to share now.
Excellent. So in Boston, and I'll show you for Hyannis, but this is quite the data set since it is Boston. This is the driest start to fall on record, which is causing chaos across the Commonwealth with wildland fires. Talking to two friends, one's a fire chief on the Cape, and their resources are pretty strained. And when you have these persistent patterns, you could go the other way and see floods, but in this case, we're in this persistent drought with high pressure, which could have impacts going into the spring, and the mortality rate of trees goes up when you have less of a chance to recharge groundwater, subsurface water going into the fall. This is the time of year where we typically see our turnaround or 180 from a dry July and August, which is climatologically pretty normal, but this is anything but normal. And in many cases, the worst drought we've seen for this time of year. And these are the ranks of red flag warnings. And this is our 12th of the season that was across the area today. So just things to keep in mind that I think since we are infrastructure and energy, droughts can be particularly draining on resources, and something that we have to certainly plan for the future. So
Chris, other than, I guess, call it normal differences in climate and precipitation, what do you attribute the drought here to?
Yeah, I mean, there's already a clear climate signal with the above normal temperatures helped with evaporation. The evaporation rate increased, so not only we're not getting the rain that we would typically get during the fall months, which would average about 10 inches. We've only had 2. The warmth has been accelerating that evaporation process. So there are clear climate signals with this. And unlike other parts of the country, this is not our fire season typically. It would be during April and May, when you have a lot of underbrush that's dead and, you know, dead from the winter. But this time of year, this is kind of our second season in a row where we've seen these a high fire threat during the fall, but also strained water resources this time of year as well. So long-winded answer to say climate signal, but overall the pattern has just been very favorable for this persistent high pressure since September.
Yeah, I just, in terms of our water supply, because we generally have pretty plentiful rainfall, this part of the country. Is that a problem on Cape Cod now, or not?
Cape Cod, thankfully, we had that rain in late September, early October, so our water table's high enough, but not the case across inland parts of Massachusetts, where we're in the bottom, 5% of where water would typically be this time of year, which is pretty shocking.
We also have local issues. We live right along the Centerville River, which is the river that the herring migrate up and down. And herring fry, have about 3 million of them, have come into our pond from Lake Wequawket, and they can't get out because the herring river is bone dry. There's no water at all. And natural resources teams have actually walked down the river from our house down to the Centerville Marsh, blowing the leaves out, because they were hoping that we would get more than 2/10 of an inch of rain. Maybe we'd get enough rain that it would fill enough of the river that the herring could go back. But this sounds like a trivial little local thing. However, the herring are the bottom of the food chain for many of the bigger fish and aquatic life in the ocean. And we are, our town has declared a climate emergency. I think that something like this drought would be another reason for the town council to say, in light of this and in light of the burning restrictions and that sort of thing, we're going to take a very careful look at water conservation during we're having this ad hoc committee for CWMP that Chris Gadd is also administering that meeting with a lot of input and a lot of resources. But we almost never talk about the fact that water and energy are linked. If we waste water, we're wasting energy. If we waste energy, we're wasting water, because they are each other's biggest customers. It takes water to pump the sewer project it takes power to pump the sewer project and water to move this stuff along. And I feel like every town in the United States should be considering more water conservation just to be ready for years like this.
Yeah, when you also see lower water levels too, the water quality suffers as well. There's a direct correlation with supply and quality as well.
And we get more
expensive to treat.
Between the heat and the lower water level, we get more harmful algae blooms. And those are not just a nuisance, those are a health risk.
Yeah.
Well, good. Thank you, Chris. Do you have anything else, or?
That's it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. That's very informative. Yeah, I did some work out west where, there was extended multi-year droughts, and it was extremely problematic. I guess living here, I don't think about that in the same way, but it's good to know. John, can we go back to you and talk about food waste?
Sure. Can you folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so I followed up with Carrie Purcell about the effort to establish a composting facility on Joint Base Cape Cod. And she said that their consultant is close to completing a feasibility study. on it. I guess they're looking at a 7-acre parcel out on the joint base. And she hopes to be ready to start talking about next steps in January. So I think this is a very positive development, because I think it will make it a lot easier to promote efforts to collect food waste if we have a place to bring it, hopefully at lower cost. So that's moving forward. The other thing to report, or the next thing to report, is Barry and Jane and I had a Zoom meeting with Tom McKean, and I'm trying to think of the other woman's name from the health division. And it was, I thought, a very positive meeting. Tom McKean showed an encouraging openness.
Diana, John, her name was Diana.
Diana, thank you, Jane.
Yep, I just had my notes.
Yeah, thank you. And Tom showed an encouraging openness to working with our committee. He remembers Peter Doyle and had a lot of respect for him. And he gave us a list of all of the establishments in the town that serve food, a list of all the email addresses, and along with instructions on how we could send out a bulk email. He did not want to send an email from the health division, because he has questions about his authority to enforce the state regulation. Of course, just to back up a bit, we're talking about the regulation that requires that prohibits the disposal of more than a half ton of food waste in any week.
Well, I mean, more specifically, John, they can dispose it, but they just have to dispose of it separately.
Yes.
And compost it. Yeah.
Right. It prohibits disposal in the general municipal trash.
Right.
Of the organic material. It could be either composted, or it could go to a biodigester.
Right.
So I think it's, the next step for us is to think about, do we want to send a message, and if so, what do we want to say, and also, who is the message coming from? Is it coming from our committee? Is it coming from DPW? And what's our, and whoever it's coming from, what's their authority so we have to kind of work through that. The other thing I'm thinking is, if we're going to send a message like this, we might want to wait until we have an idea of how things are progressing with the effort to establish a facility on the joint base. I think it's going to be a lot easier to get the food waste generators to comply with the regulation if there's a local place that the material can be brought, and so that the disposal cost is lower. If the cost of disposing food waste is lower than the cost of other trash, then there's an incentive for them to comply. So my thinking is, we might want to wait until beginning of 2025 before deciding what exactly we would want to say if we send out a bulk message like this.
John, I share your caution, and I'm not sure we're the right messenger. I think that since DPW runs the transfer station, and if we get more, if we're able to help the organizations that generate enough food waste to be considered under this new regulation, I think that to have them, well, of course, you think their waste goes to the transfer station?
It does not, no.
Not, but in any case, it's kind of under their category of responsibility.
Well, it's not, though. It isn't.
Well, whose is it? I mean, is it the town council then? Because I think we don't have any authority, and to give them this information without having the services to either pick up the material or a place to take it, I think it's kind of a wasted exercise. I think it would be better to have more solutions to the new requirement. So I share your caution and would support the idea of waiting.
Yeah, so the way I gathered from the conversation is the State Department of Environmental Protection has the jurisdiction, it's their regulations to enforce it, which I think is done fairly minimally from my sense of it. And that was one of the questions that we had for Tom McKean, whether the town is responsible for enforcing those rules. And he said, no.
But, you know, I mean, here we're back again. We're sort of chasing our tail on this climate emergency. Food waste that goes to landfill and generates methane is a huge contributor to climate change. And if, you know, if we're living in a climate emergency, I'm frustrated that we seem to keep passing the buck and saying, you know, it's not our responsibility. Well, we're all going to go down together then.
Yeah, I don't know whether we're we're the ones passing the buck, but basically the conversation, as I said,
not us. I mean, not us. But if it's, you know, bounce it back to DEP, well, you know.
Well, I think, yeah, I wasn't suggesting that, but I think the conversation was we'd asked Tom whether, you know, he had jurisdiction over this, and he said, no, I don't. So he wasn't comfortable writing that letter. But he said, if you want to do it, fine, he would support that, you know. So I don't know whether there's someone there other than us who would start the ball on it, and I think you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we could go to the state and see what DEP is doing in this regard, but
well, it seems to me that it would be an annoying letter to receive if you're one of these restaurants that's, you know, generating 1,500 pounds a week, and you know, you don't have anybody knocking on your door offering to be the pickup service to take this to composting, and you're being notified that you're breaking a new state regulation, but there's no solution to it. I would find that annoying.
Yeah, there are. I mean, it's not that there's no solution. Black Earth is willing to pick up food waste in town. They pick it up. They go to Falmouth. I mean, I think they would like the business. It's just it's more expensive because they have to truck it all the way up to I think around Boston somewhere. And there's another company called Recycling Works that has a biodigester, and they would also be, you know, they're willing to pick up. It's just that it's just a question of the cost. There is another way of coming at this. Another interesting aspect of the discussion with Tom McKean was that the health division is also responsible for regulating the trash haulers in town. And Tom mentioned that there's a new town rule where the haulers who pick up at private residence are now required to offer recycling. And actually, Tom was saying that he was going to send something to the private haulers to remind them of this obligation. And so another way of coming at this would be to go to the haulers and say that, you know, that they're prohibited from picking up and disposing of you know, an excessive amount of organic material. And that, you know, that might be something that that we'd want to have the town council weigh in on. But if the town was willing to say to the haulers, you have to offer recycling when you're picking up from a private residence, maybe the town council would also be willing to say, and also if you're picking up from a large commercial food establishment, you're required to tell them to separate their waste.
Well,
food waste.
I thought that Tom was willing to, if we suggested a sentence or two, just informing them on, under state law, there's required, to separate the
Yeah.
food waste if based on, if you meet the minimum weekly amount. I think he said he was thinking about sending him a letter about the town's rules and he could add that to it.
Yeah.
That seems like it's worthwhile to do.
I think so, although I guess the only other thing I was thinking is that it would, if at the same time we could say to the haulers, and also all you need to do is take it over to Joint Base Cape Cod, that would be a much better message, a much easier message for them. If we're saying them, well, you have to take it all the way up, to have to find someplace off Cape to take it.
Well,
That's a harder
that's going to be
sell.
several years before that can happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid you're
So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think there are polite ways to do that.
Yeah.
And
That makes better sense to me, as if it can be tucked into a couple sentences coming from the Board of Health anyway, and that they have a line of communication with the trash haulers. That seems like a good place to start.
Well, yeah, and I think Tom said he'd be willing to do that. So maybe that was my sense of the meeting. So maybe John, you can draft something and
Okay.
maybe run it by Jane and me, and it's okay. You can send that over to Tom.
All right. I'll do that.
And then, to the users, I mean, I guess there are some options. Black Earth, I think there's one other company that's doing business in southeastern Massachusetts. I'm not sure they're doing it on the Cape, but doing something similar. And you can add that. I mean, to me, it's you need to start somewhere, and having the conversation and doing it in a polite manner and doing it to all users and indicating if they're over the minimum amount, then then they have a legal obligation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
And it's easy for me to suggest it because you're going to do the drafting.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to look. You're gonna have to
Okay.
read it and comment on it.
All right.
John, remind me again what you just said about the timeline from Carrie Purcell, that the feasibility study is almost done, and then she'll bring that to the town council. Is that, or will it go to the county?
Well, it's a county initiative.
Okay.
All she said is that in January they'd be ready to start talking about
Okay.
next steps.
Okay.
So,
All
but
right.
I think I'm afraid that Barry's probably right, that it would be would probably be a couple of years before they were really actually ready to start receiving any material.
Okay.
Isn't the issue with
So-
like Black Earth and not having enough people here, and it would kind of resolve itself if more people signed up?
Yes, I think you're right, Rob. I think they like a cluster of customers, not just a couple.
Right.
Even 25. I think we talked to them, for some reason, we talked to them from our church green committee several years back, and they were saying if they got 20 people to sign up in a local, town or village area, that would make it worthwhile. And they do pick up at a couple commercial places in Hyannis, but that may be a different volume.
Okay, so in terms of food waste, John, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, well, the only other thing to report was, I did send an email to, Tracy at the, transfer station about, going down there and setting up a table to survey transfer station users, about, obstacles to, what their reasons are for not separating their food waste. And I haven't heard back from him, so I'll have to follow up with him on that, because I think that would be helpful to get some feedback there. That's
No,
all.
just a question, and maybe, I don't know, Chris, whether you, or John, whether you have any knowledge about this, but I remember from past conversations with him that I think he had a 2-year grant from the state for the food waste recycling, which,
Right.
John, do you remember that? And because probably 2 years is coming up at some point, and I wondered whether there's an effort to extend that, or whether that's even something in the cards.
There's a state program that provides funds annually for recycling, and depending on what practices a town puts in place, they get certain credits. And so the town's been getting maybe around $10,000 or $20,000 a year from that. And
Yeah.
I think that's the money that we've been using to support the program so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, so I
And
mean, maybe it's just a useful piece of information to know whether that's going to continue, because
Yeah.
obviously that may have an effect on Tracy's perspective on this.
Yeah. I think it's an important point. We'll have to see what the,
Okay.
how the funding looks.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have anything to say about food waste? All right, let's move on to air quality monitoring. So Jane, I think that this is really the issue you raised at the last meeting, and it had to do with the Barnstable United Elementary School and the mold. And maybe if you could.
My question when Lisa talked to us was, was there anything in this, any scope of being able to use green community funds for school HVAC upgrades? And it can be. It's not specifically designed for mold remediation, but it does cover, if it's determined it's necessary, HVAC upgrades. So that could be a helpful application to becoming a green community, which I've been reading through those minutes again today, would be probably in the order of $220,000 a year for Hyannis, I think she said. But relative to the air quality, I was pretty concerned, just because I've been kind of immersed in learning and advising on air quality since the pandemic. And I did go and I had heard some hearings. There was a separate school committee hearing. I think it was back around October 7th or 8th or someplace, where staff and parents were all, speaking up about either personal illnesses or their children's illnesses. And they had the air quality expert who had inspected the school, along with the state. There's a school department, a school environmental inspection capability that had also inspected the school. And this expert she was very friendly, and she offered to give people her phone number and have them talk to her directly, but she kept telling people that they had done tape testing of the school after the cleaning, and there was no mold, and that people can't get respiratory conditions from aspergillosis and whatever the other, I forget, penicillin or some other mold that is typically identified in Cape Cod buildings when they have mold. Well, that, to me, that was an upsetting statement because it's frankly wrong. I mean, while she was talking, I was fact checking on the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic websites, and they talk about, respiratory things. But I also, just from a generic public health management perspective, people are having asthma attacks every time, when they walk into the building, that means that for that individual, there's something triggering their respiratory problem. And I felt like these people were being told, the building's safe, the building's safe. Well, it isn't for them. We don't all have the same threshold of sensitivity to allergens. Some people in hay fever season are completely immobilized. Other people have no problem. Some people get asthma triggered by smoke in the air. Other people can tolerate it. In any case, I was concerned because I felt like they were pushing back on people who were either sick themselves, some of the staff, or their kids were. And so I kind of launched myself into this discussion and asked some of my friends who work in this sector by providing, they have companies that do air quality monitoring. They also, some of them do air purification. And I asked them if, their experiences working with schools. And I found that actually the Boston public school system has online an air quality dashboard that anyone can access, any of us can access. It's open to the public. They have air monitors in all their buildings. One of their high schools in Charlestown has 74 air monitors in the building. And they have a very nice write-up on their school district website about how it's helped them to have this monitoring because they've been able to target remediation efforts. And the folks that I'm aware of, my colleagues, said they were concerned hearing this story. They would offer 3 months of pro bono testing and analysis if the school district was interested. So I actually met with Dr. Sarah Ahern, who's our superintendent of schools. I presented that information about the Boston School District and the information from the 2 companies that I'm aware of. And she had the chief of the facilities for the school district with her. They seemed interested. I've heard 0 follow-up. So I'm assuming they've decided not to pursue it. I haven't heard back from them or from my colleagues, but at least they know it's available. And, with my public health interest, and especially with what we've been through with the pandemic, it's not just COVID, it's not just mold. There can be other things that get into the air that you're not aware of. There can be volatile compounds that make some people ill. Yeah. It's a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, and Jane, I don't mean to interrupt, but I had dinner with 2 teachers from the school. One is the son of a friend of mine, the other is a friend of his. And this is their perception, it's anecdotal, but they thought part of the school or some of the rooms seemed to be okay, and there were a few that were not. And I don't know whether that corresponded with the work that was done or not.
Well, see, that's why air is invisible, right? You have to monitor, and these monitors test about 8 or 10 characteristics of the air. It's temperature, it's humidity, it's volatile organic compounds.
Do they do it in different locations within the school? In other words, they do it over a number.
They try to pick a sampling. They would do places like the nurse's office, which is a place where people would go if they were sick anyway. So that's a good place. And then they would go to the areas where people seem to be having the most difficulties. And as I talked to my friends over a period of several days, they said, this monitoring is so worthwhile because you find out things that you didn't anticipate. They may have completely cleaned all the mold, and there may be something else, like say the art room or the shop office. If they're using some kind of glues or something that is making people sick. They talked about one of them helping a senior assisted living capability that people were just dropping like flies. It turns out they were charging their motorized scooters and wheelchairs outside of their arts and crafts room. And the off-gassing from the paints and the glues was interacting with whatever this electric current was doing. And it was making a toxic corner in their building. Well, they would never have known that if they hadn't done air quality monitoring.
Yeah.
So the slogan of that whole industry is making the invisible visible.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah, I mean, thank you for following up on that and pursuing this. As you haven't heard back, maybe you could.
I haven't heard back. They thanked me. It was a very pleasant meeting. They seemed interested, and they took my information. They took the contact information for the two companies and the two individuals that I know that work in this. And, to me, this is, I don't know. This is kind of bread and butter. It's like, going to a doctor's office and not having vital signs taken. You've got some kind of a sick building syndrome that's at least making some people sick. If you don't analyze the environment, which is the air, you don't know what's going on. And it's important not just for people getting allergies. It's important because the average school indoor air carbon dioxide parts per million is 2,500. Well, we know that outside we're alarmed because our parts per million of carbon dioxide is getting to be 450. And that's bad because it's a marker of climate change. But when our carbon dioxide is that high, what that tells us is this building is not being adequately ventilated. People start to get sick syndromes, headaches, sleepy, can't think straight when parts per million get in the 600 to 800 level. So it's really, I think, incumbent on any school district to do what Boston Public School District does. I think all school classrooms should have indoor air monitors continuously. And the places that have done this, schools and businesses, have found increased productivity, decreased absenteeism.
So the only reason I can think of not to do it, aside from money or whatever, is whether there's something in the contract with the firm that did the remediation that they're responsible or somebody else is responsible for the testing, for monitoring.
Well, you know what they do? They come in with a piece of tape and they do surface testing in 10 places around the school. That is totally inadequate.
Oh, I
but I'm
I have
a
no doubt that
citizen.
you're
I'm
right.
a private
I'm just
citizen. I
thinking
told
about.
them, I told them I was just interested in this because I'm a physician and I was immersed in this during the pandemic because this is how the pandemic spread, closed, airborne spread indoors. And there's ways to test your indoor air and improve it to make it safer. But anyway, it's kind of, my passion, and I was glad to have an opportunity. It was pleasant to speak to them. I'm a little disappointed that it appears there's no follow-up. In fact, one thing that was kind of interesting, she said, if we start this, they're going to want to continue it. They meaning, all the consumers, the families and the staff. Well, okay, but I don't think that's a reason to not do 3 months of free testing by world-class companies. I mean, these people are really top of their game. They're not just the average bear. They're really.
So I'm thinking what more we can do about it as a committee or you as an individual.
And I said, I said I was on this committee. I said, I'm not speaking for the committee. I'm speaking as an individual because I've been interested in this. And
it's really the school department, I think, rather than the town council, but it's a little bit unclear.
No, it is the school department. And it's very strange. The council approves their budget, but as far as I could tell, they don't get into the weeds on micromanaging anything else about the school district. As far as I can tell, although the school buildings are municipal buildings. So when David Anthony does his inventory of energy use across the town, that will include the schools.
Yeah, and just to clarify something that you said, Jane. So if we're a green community, the 220 or maybe 250,000 something, that's what you get when you're approved as a green community, and it's for some specific things. But beyond that, you can apply for grants. And
Oh, yeah,
yeah, so
there's a lot
yeah.
of avenues to apply for green school grants, or
Right.
especially since the pandemic, at least for now, until we get a change of heart with the new folks.
Right. But
There's
even
quite
under
a
the
bit of
green,
money for indoor air quality in
Yeah.
schools.
but even under the Green Communities program, they're other people have got hundreds of thousands, other towns have gotten hundreds of thousands of other
Well,
grants.
and I don't have I don't have the backup documentation, but I have personal communication from people who've been advocating for Sandwich to be a green community, that one of the tipping point decision makers in favor of becoming a green community was that they were going to be able to use the state money towards their school HVAC upgrades, which they
Okay.
were hoping to do, and they were looking for sources of funding.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, thank you. And anything else on that, or?
No, I feel like I've spoken my piece, and I've offered to help, with further connections or referrals if they're interested. And, I haven't heard any more about it. I haven't heard any more coverage in the news about the health issues in the schools.
Yeah.
But
You can lead a horse to water, but sometimes you can't make them drink. So,
yeah, no, I agree.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see, next, new business, updates from the committee chair. So I'll give a very brief summary of what's going on with the town and the wind projects. So for New England Wind 1, which is Park City Wind, several things are going on. There was a petition under the town charter to basically reconsider, for the town council to reconsider their vote to approve the side letter with Park City Wind, which is basically a settlement agreement. And I think that's going to be heard substantively at the next town council meeting.
Is that the Craigville Landing, Barry?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
There was litigation by Save Dowses Beach and others relating to the town's approval of the side letter, and there was that has been briefed, and there was a hearing held on the town's motion to dismiss and some other associated motions. And so at some point they'll make a decision, but the judge had decided on the motion for preliminary injunction that the town was likely to succeed on the merits. So we'll see how that turns out. And let's see, there have been a series of meetings with the COM Water District and Park City Wind to really for a negotiation for a memorandum of understanding. COM did that with Vineyard Wind for the first project, Vineyard Wind 1 project. And that has been, I think what's interesting and really unique, I've never seen it before, is that the negotiations for the agreement are being done in public, or mostly being done in public. So, if I don't know what the next scheduled meeting is, but you can look on their website if you're interested in that.
But what now for COM Water? What is their concern? I don't.
Yeah, so so there's one, I would say, major issue that's that probably is getting most of the focus, and that is the concern that the cables create heat, and that may heat up the water in the water pipes and potentially create a public health issue.
Are they adjacent? Are they going to be adjacent?
Well, let's see, the first time I think they were 10 feet apart, and they're insulated. The water pipe is insulated.
Right.
Around the cables, there's insulation. Potentially they may maybe increase the number of feet they're apart. But this would all be done in connection with the putting the cables in and replacing the sewer pipes. So what they're talking about is Park City Wind has proposed to, and actually it's in process having an engineering study as to whether this is a significant issue, and what can be done to reduce the risk of heating the water in a way that could have a significant impact. So that's part of it. The other part, which is the same issue that that the town had addressed and entered into a settlement agreement on and was approved by the siting board, was the protections in the substation from the release of dielectric fluids and associated issues if it were released and then got into the groundwater. So that's also being discussed. I think there's some issue about whether that's properly within the bailiwick of the water district, but Park City Wind has been trying to address the concerns there. So those are I think the two major points.
And how about that MIT committee that was willing to be kind of a listening group, a third-party listening group for?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
I think Kristen Turkelson is the one who introduced. They sounded very, it sounded like an interesting opportunity, and they would be, be no cost to the town.
Right, and I think they're going ahead and doing it, and they're talking to people. I just I'm not one of them, but
Okay.
and I haven't heard and it's supposed to be done confidentially. I've actually worked with a third-party facilitator dealing with these sorts of issues, and the way they're going about it is quite different. So this is a school project, really, and they're
Right.
going to write a report, and as part of the research that they've been doing, across the country and maybe in different countries for a lot of different projects, and maybe coming up with some recommendations about how to address these issues more generically. And maybe they're doing something more specifically here, whereas what I've done is with basically one person who's a pretty senior person who's talking to different interested parties and the developer and trying to identify what the issues are and get a consensus around solutions. So, but that's about all I know about it, Jane. Yeah.
Okay.
Rob?
Just out of curiosity, point of interest, really. End of October, I drove through New Bedford on I-95, and I guess the staging area for Vineyard Wind is way out there, so I couldn't see much. But also went by New London, and they have lots of wind stuff going on at their state pier.
Right. I think that's for the what was the Revolution Wind project. Maybe I forget whether they changed the name or not, but that's for a project that was contracted with the Connecticut utilities and National Grid in Rhode Island, the Rhode Island utility.
Yeah, but I was impressed. They had blades stacked.
Wow.
In special, cribs. So quite impressive.
It's a huge infrastructure project. Yeah. And I guess the last thing to report on was there was a meeting at town council about taking a position on the Commonwealth Wind or New England Wind 2 project, and this is the one that would land at Dowses Beach. And it's at a much earlier stage. They haven't really started the permitting. They've just done the environmental reviews. They don't have a power contract. They were not awarded a power contract at the last procurement. It's still pending. And there were 4 options that were given. 3 of them were basically against. The first one is against the specific project. That was option 1. Options 2 and 3 were ones that were much broader, like any new projects, wind projects at all, for the town of Barnstable. And the 4th option was to negotiate a host community agreement. So what was discussed and what passed was the motion to, or the position to oppose the specific project that would land at Dowses Beach, because that's what was on the table. That passed by a vote of 7-5, but I would say that the opponents, or most of the opponents who voted against it, wanted a broader statement of position in opposition to really any new offshore wind project. So that should put to bed for a while the variety of discussions that have been had, at least at the town level, on the Dowses Beach project, or New England Wind 2. So if anyone has any question or they want to make a point to make, otherwise we'll go on to some other things. All right. Let's see. There's one thing I didn't have on the agenda, but I think I'd like to put on the agenda for next meeting. Peter Doyle was the vice chair, and he passed away a number of months ago, and we don't have a vice chair, and I think it would be good if we had one. So I'd like to put on the agenda an election of a vice chair. And I've talked to a few of you. People have mixed feelings. I think Chris seems to be want to entertain being vice chair. But if there's anybody else who wants to, please email me. But I think since we have not noticed this on the agenda, that I don't think we can act on it in this meeting, but I think at our next meeting, I think we should. And that brings up to future meeting dates. So
Eric, can I just give a point of information?
Sure.
There's a really interesting online summit today, tomorrow, Thursday. It's either free or very low cost to log into, which is basically other forms of sanitation besides IA, septics, and sewers. It's called the Rich Earth Institute Summit. I think I may have sent a number of you the link to that.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting, and it's everything from very simple users to academic departments around the world, to the city of Paris and University of Sydney, and people doing work in Africa, and and disaster response, refugee camp. It's fairly fascinating, the scope of technologies being presented. And I think since we're in a 15-month review period now of the CWMP program, with an ad hoc committee meeting monthly, this is another important option that I think should be entertained for the appropriate locations, because I feel like our CWMP sewering project is enormous, it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of time, and I'm not sure we have that much time, and it's not going to get to everybody when it's finished. So besides sewering and IA septics, I think it's worth learning about some of these other options.
Yeah. So
So that's
yeah, that's great. I just have a question. I'm going to be out of town tomorrow, but
it's recorded. You can look at it anytime. It'll be
okay,
available
that's
on
the
their
question.
website.
Okay.
Yep. You don't
Okay,
have to
great.
attend in person. It's being recorded and transcribed. So, and these, all the presentations, most of them are PowerPoints. They'll be able to be accessed for future review.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. All right, let's say Chris circulated some dates and again, here's something I think we should do tentatively. Kristen Turkelson, oops. Okay.
Nope, I'm still. I just pulled up the dates.
Okay,
just in
that's
case
what you're
we
doing.
wanted.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we should just have the discussion. I'd like to maybe come up with some tentative dates, but I'd like Kristen to have the opportunity to look at it and chime in at our next meeting. So let me start out by, let's see, our next meeting. So the first three meetings we've already scheduled. And I will be honest, the next meeting, Monday, November 25th, I will be on the road. I can have a stopping place, I think in Richmond. So I can attend that. But given, I don't think there's going to be anything for green communities. John, like to hear your opinion of food waste. But my first question is, should we have the meeting Monday, the November 25th, or should we just cancel that?
I
Or
vote that we
reschedule it?
cancel it. I think it would be low yield. We
Yeah.
don't have any burning issues right now, like you said.
Okay,
That makes sense to me as well.
okay. That also will make my life easier, so I appreciate it. Okay, so is that the consensus that we're going to cancel the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
I might be on the road though on the 23rd too, since that's only 2 days before Christmas, heading out to Wisconsin.
okay.
I don't know if other people are.
And maybe we just do one meeting in December. I think that sounds better. We're going to be almost on the road. I'm not going to be able to focus because I'm leaving early the next morning for London, hopefully.
So here's what I would suggest about that. Let's keep it there, but make a decision on next meeting, Monday, December 9th.
Okay.
And, because if we have something really pressing, we'll have it there as a placeholder. If not, we'll cancel. It sounds like it's really inconvenient for a number of people.
And Barry, speaking of numbers of people, we all want to think about recruiting a couple more committee members, right?
Yes, that's an excellent point. I have had a conversation with a couple of people about this, and so far don't have any takers. But yeah, we're down to 5 now. I think I had mentioned, and if I hadn't, I apologize, that William Beal has resigned, really for health reasons. And so we're down to 5 members. So it would be good to get at least one more. And I'm willing to tell people and swear to it that there's no relationship to being on this committee and having adverse health effects.
Oh, gosh. Maybe a comment on our commentary on our water quality in Cape Cod.
Maybe, yeah. But, okay, so is that okay? So we'll cancel November 25th. We'll keep Monday, November 9th, and we'll keep
December
tentatively
23rd.
December 23rd, but if we don't really have, we'll decide at our next meeting, and if we don't really, have a important need to have that meeting, we'll cancel it. Is that
Sounds good.
okay?
Sounds good.
The 25th is canceled, 9th is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't have an entry for the 9th. I don't know why.
Okay, but yeah, we've had that on the schedule for a while.
No. All right.
All right, and then I thought we should, till the end of the fiscal year, which is in June, to get a schedule of meetings. Chris circulated these dates. Actually, I have a couple of conflicts with these dates. With some of them rather. But do you want to walk through them?
Sure.
So I thought at this meeting, what we could do is, let's say we can go through these dates and come up with ones that we seem to agree on, and then circulate it, and then Kristen can see it, and we could take it up at our next meeting. So the January ones are fine with me, January 13th and 27th. And this is
Sure.
like
Yeah,
the
they're
second
okay
and
with
fourth.
me. The only one I see that doesn't look good is the 23rd of June. All the others all look okay to me.
Okay. I have a conflict of the 23rd of June as well. Maybe we could move that to Tuesday, June 24th.
I'll be gone. I'll probably be gone
Okay.
that whole week.
All right, let's just go back to February. We'll come back to June later.
We may know more. Barry, what do you think about if we wait till the January meeting? I mean, I don't know what all my conflicts are yet. I mean, this is kind of far ahead for me. I don't have
I
any.
mean, it's easier for me because I have other, I'm on a board. I've got other things that I already know that I have some conflicts. And
Why don't
but
we
I'd
all
rather
just
have,
send to Chris Gadd our conflicts, and then
Yeah, could do
you know,
that.
I'd rather have dates, and this is what I've done with other committees and boards,
okay,
is to set the dates,
and
6
then
months in
change as
advance, or
needed.
sometimes a year in advance, and things come up, you need to change it, you can try to do that. But this way, if you know what the dates are, then to make other plans, you can plan around it.
Okay.
Because yeah, like to Barry's point, there's nothing saying that we have to
Yeah. So
use these
so
dates.
Monday, February 20, I can make Monday, February 10th. I will be away the 24th of February, and I'm actually going to be away for a couple of weeks. So I maybe that's something, keep it. I probably won't be able to attend though. Monday, March 10th, I'm actually returning the 9th late at night. I could do the 10th, but I would probably prefer the Tuesday, the 11th, give myself an extra day to recover. But yeah, I could do, if not convenient for others, I could do it the 10th. The other dates in March, April, May are fine. I do have a conflict on June 23rd. And are you, Jane, are you going to be out like for a week or two at a time, or is that?
Yeah, we are expecting a grandchild, and it may
Oh,
be
congrats.
maybe gone for 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
That's the due date, actually, the 23rd. So
Okay.
if all goes well,
Mhm.
we'll be in England for a while.
You know, the way, just at least from my experience, sometimes they don't arrive exactly on the due date, but
Correct. But
Yeah.
if you're traveling from overseas to be there, to be supportive, you come early and you stay as long as needed.
so if we're getting even into the summer then. We could do, how about June 16th?
As far as I know, that'll be okay, but I really I don't know very much about how things are gonna go. So. No promises. The Monday, June 8th seems okay.
In my calendar, Monday, June 8th, I think that should be June 9th.
And if it's
But-
June 9th, probably not, because we have
You-
we have a commitment in California.
June 9th, you are correct. It should be, that is the Monday. My bad. I mean, if we wanted to, and Barry, again, this is all up to you. You could just have one June meeting on June 16th, especially it's the summer. I don't know.
Is that, Jane, would that work with you?
As far as I know, but I'm not making any promises about June.
All right. Would you prefer between June 9th and June 16th, which would you prefer?
June 9th, I would not be able to make the meeting.
Okay, why don't we have June 16th then? That at least maybe gives you a better opportunity and, you know, do the best we can. So Chris, maybe you can circulate that and we can,
Yep.
You know, people then can look at their calendars or, and we can talk about it, at our next meeting. And you know, Jane, you brought up, a need for new members. Does anyone have any thoughts about, who might be a good member for this committee?
I'm gonna have to think about it. I'm not thinking very clearly right now, but I've thought
Yeah.
about it on and off, and I haven't really come up with anybody
All
either.
right. Well, yeah,
give some more
and I
thought
don't think
to
we
it.
want to talk about it, naming anybody or anything like that. But, think about it and, you know, if you want to go out and talk to someone about that or ask them if they'd be interested in joining, go ahead.
Yeah.
And then, I would also, advise the rest, that the rest of us that we, keep healthy.
Good idea.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that. I think we've gone through the agenda. Does anyone, have anything else to add? Otherwise, I think we can, move into, adjournment.
Sounds good. I move we adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Second.
I'm in favor.
Okay, like, well, in favor, and John, I can see your hand is raised even though I can't see you, so.
Yeah.
We're adjourned and, enjoy the rest of your week.